I'm not entirely sure why, but for the whole of my life, I've been completely unable to read lips. I've tried to learn, but for some reason, I just can't. I've lost board games because of it, I've ruined surprises because of it. It's even hurt my ability to do my job because, like a lot of us, I used to shoot weddings. During a ceremony somewhere in the late 2010s, my A7 III had less than 5% battery. I was trying to tell my second shooter about it, who was standing 100 feet away on the other side of several dozen smiling family and friends proudly watching their loved ones tie the knot. That's me right there, trying to communicate that I needed to change batteries. There's my second shooter, who sees me and asks a follow-up question, with his lips, that I cannot read. He was super confused, rightfully so I started pointing at things and trying to reiterate that I needed to go to the back of the room to change batteries because my battery was gonna die, and that confused him even more, and then everything devolved into a beautiful wedding flanked by two morons mouthing words and waving their hands around. Eventually, I decided to make a run for it. I motioned for him to stay where he was. I silently power walked at Mach 3 to the back of the church, swapped my battery, started walking back to my post, and completely and catastrophically missed the kiss. That second shooter was a pretty good friend of mine, so we decided to come up with a system of hand signals to help us shoot weddings in the future and try and communicate, and that didn't work at all. Another time, I was hired as a DP on a project that involved recording in the middle of the night in someone's backyard. To try and simulate the moonlight and bring some level into our frame, one of my fellow crew members got on top of the house and flew a light panel as high as our highest C-stand could go. That's me, again, setting up the shot, trying to yell to my other crew member, who was several hundred feet away, on top of a house, in the middle of the night, with neighbors who were watching from their windows on either side. Not great. I also used to do a lot of live work, and in that situation, it would be impossible to do your job without a comm system that allows for seamless communication between the directors and operators. But the only problem with a comm system is I don't have that kind of money laying around. Nobody has that kind of money laying around. I had long given up hope in this area and accepted that I would forever ruin games, surprises, the sweet dreams of neighbors, and wedding ceremonies because of it. But the other day I got an email. It was from a company called Accsoon, whom is well known for making wireless products. They were reaching out to see if I wanted to try something called the CoMo wireless headset. I said yes, but I do have some reservations. Either wireless comms are astronomically expensive and completely out of reach of most filmmakers, or they're affordable, but they're super plasticky and brittle and they're ready to break at the first opportunity. So while we wait for this package to come in, we need to set some ground rules. First of all, these things need to be reliable. Solving a lapse in communication is great and all, but if they're not gonna work right out of the box, then I'm not sure they're worth bringing at all. I mean, especially with the wedding scenario. You show up to a ceremony space, you're setting up your stuff, you're talking to the officiant and the groom, you're miking up people, you're talking to the planner, you're talking to the photographer to make sure you're not in each other's way. The last thing you want to do is have everything in order and then you put your headset on and it doesn't work and you have to fiddle with it and get that to work too. So these things have to be reliable. I also need the sound quality to be at least decent. I've done jobs before where the headsets are low quality and it is a horrible experience for everybody. Either the voices are way too loud and distorted and tinny and horrible, or they're not loud enough and you can't hear anything. And then you're just constantly asking each other to repeat whatever was said last, which is a huge waste of time and is terrible on set. The range also needs to be workable. A lot of headsets these days have a pretty decent couple 100-foot range for communication, but it's definitely worth mentioning because it's a big deal. If you run out to the van to grab a piece of gear and you have a question, it'll save so much time if you're able to throw your voice a couple 100 feet, ask your question, grab what you need, and get back to set. For stuff like live production, this is absolutely essential. Not even just so that the directors can talk to the operators, but so that the operators can talk to other operators and stay out of each other's way. Battery life also needs to be good. To facilitate a day of video production is to sign up for a day where you're constantly worried about power. There's way too much to worry about already. You need to power your monitors, you need camera batteries, you need to have light batteries if you're going out into the field. It's horrible, and we don't want to add a bunch of batteries on top of that already just so that we can talk to each other. The best headsets I've used have had 4 to 5 hour battery life, which is totally fine. Every operator can carry around a couple extra batteries, so I'm really hoping for battery life in that range. Last and certainly least is comfort. This is definitely a want and not a need, but comfort's still pretty important. You don't want to be switching your ear every single couple minutes because the plastic is cutting your ear open. It will help everybody's mood if the headsets are comfortable. It's a lot of demands, I know, but who knows? Maybe the CoMos are up for the challenge. The unboxing experience is pretty nice. There's some attention to detail that is noticeable. Instead of worrying about installing a rack-mounted system somewhere on set, the CoMos work through a host and remote setup. What that basically means is you have one headset that's kind of like the master headset, and then there are other headsets that are remote that just automatically connect to the master headset, and you can have up to 8 total. So when you take it out of the box, you put your battery in it, you turn it on, you hold pair, they automatically pair, and then you are good to go. Let's get started with our ground rules. First of all, I'm pretty impressed with the build quality here. Most of the construction is plastic, which is to be expected, but it's more a question of how robust the plastic is, and thankfully in this case, pretty robust. There's no creaking, no brittleness, no stress over things snapping or anything like that. Let's move on to operation. Powering on and connecting is super easy. You just flip the power switch on, and if they aren't connected already, you just hold the pair button and it does everything automatically. I show up on a shoot day, I pull them out of my case, turn them on, and they work right away, which is best case scenario. While in use, the only thing I'm messing with is the audio up and down controls to dial in how loud I want the earpiece. On to sound quality. This one is kind of hard to communicate because it's hard to know what a headset sounds like unless you're wearing it and listening to it. Right out of the box, the CoMo headsets have environmental noise cancellation, and it actually works really, really well. Ambient noises are recognized and attenuated unto voices sounding more isolated and clear. Depending on the kind of project that you're doing, this could either be a luxury or an absolute essential. There's been times when I'm camera operating in a drum cage, and if you're in a drum cage with a drummer playing, your voice will be completely unintelligible to everybody you're trying to talk to if you don't have noise cancellation. But even if the headsets didn't have it, I think they sound pretty good. The earpiece isn't too crunchy or anything, it sounds detailed and open, which helps quite a bit. I think the mic sounds great too. Even if it didn't have noise cancellation, I think we wouldn't have issues. Here's another big one, maybe even the most important. I was crossing my fingers for a couple hundred feet, maybe more, but these things can go up to 1,300 feet with line of sight. I can't think of too many scenarios where I would need to have a full duplex conversation with somebody over 1,000 feet away on most of the shoots that I'm doing, so this is awesome. Battery life is another top shelf concern for me. And again, the CoMo headsets are impressive here. I've used headsets that last only an hour, maybe an hour and a half before, and the best headsets I've ever used have lasted 3 to 5 hours, but these guys are rated to last 10 hours. That means realistically on a lot of production days you could get by with one battery, and if you're pushing 12 to 16 hours, then you just swap your battery one time. That's so much better than every crew member having to keep track of 10 batteries. Finally, we get to the icing on the cake. Yeah, these things are pretty comfy. This is going to be totally subjective, but I've worn everything from super comfy to downright painful, and these are definitely in the comfy direction. The earpiece is nice and soft, there isn't too much pressure on the headband, it's adjustable, and to test them out, I've been wearing them during editing days and haven't had any issues. So yeah, the CoMos pass with flying colors in all categories, but I still have one problem. I'm going to be packing these in my case for every shoot from now on, and yeah, I don't have to worry about on-set communication ever again, but what about me back then? He couldn't read lips either.